Good morning. I just first want to acknowledge that Mother's Day is met with layered and at times conflicting emotions. And we are aware that everybody has a story. So for some mothers, we're celebrating moms who are rocking it one coffee at a time. We're encouraging tired or discouraged or disheartened moms that their role matters. We're grieving with those who have experienced loss of a mom or a child, and our hearts are with you. And we don't take that lightly. We're acknowledging the people who are navigating moms or children with health issues or sickness or addiction or aging. And we're thankful for the mother figures who have taught us different aspects of life and who have taken us under their wing. And so we thank you and wanted to first bring awareness to that for Mother's Day. Do you want to start?
Oh, yeah. I'll ask the questions, which will be fun. Okay, so, well, first of all, let's introduce ourselves. They know me already, so everybody's dying to know who you are, how many kids you have, what their ages are, all those things. So go ahead, let us know. Is it on? Oh, boy. The green one here.
Good morning. My name is Amy Mackey. I have 3 girls. Most of you know my oldest daughter, Aubrey. Everybody says, that's Aubrey's mom. My daughter Elsie's also here today, and I have a daughter, Annalie, who's often in the Kids Min. So they're 24, 20, and 16.
Good morning, everyone. I'm LaMonica Williams. I have 2 kiddos, Landon and Lydia. They're 10 and 8.
I'm Esther. We have 3 kids. Wesley is 11. Chloe is age 9, and Jordan is age 5.
Well, this is great. So speaking of middle child, I was a middle child, so I understand the plight of the middle child. They're the best in the family, bar none. And so at our school, their kids' school, they do this award show thing or whatever. They give awards. I don't know how often. It's like breakfast. Parents come, families come. It's amazing. Like they did this a couple months ago, and Wes and Jordan were on for the award. So like I think we were traveling expecting. I was there. My in-laws are there. It's like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is amazing. Everybody's getting awards. She picked Chloe up on Thursday or Friday. She texted me. She's like, Chloe got an award today, and like it was the same thing. Breakfast, families are there, and Chloe gets it out there because she just knows. I guess at this point, she's like, yeah. I don't think my parents know about this, so they're not going to be here. But we didn't know. They never told us. That's what we're taking to the grave. And it's true. It's very true. And they're like, oh, they had to get Wes to come down and like be her like family and celebrate her. Awful. So awful. And she will get counseling for that later in life. But what? Yeah. No, it was awful that we weren't there. Anyways, okay, cool. So now you know a little bit about how we are. What was your journey into motherhood like?
Yeah, I can start because it's kind of boring, really. But Lee and I were married for about 4 years, and we were living in the city and kind of just having a lot of fun, just us two, and exploring the city and traveling. And then it was kind of like, our biggest dilemma at that time was like what we were going to eat for dinner, and not even like what would we cook. It was like, what are we going to order or where are we going to go? And then it just kind of got time, and we were like, okay, so, time is ticking. I think if we're going to do this, we should do it now. And he was like, yeah, we should. And then we just started trying. And we didn't think it was going to be a try type of thing. We just figured, like it's just going to happen because we decided it would happen. But it didn't. It took some time. And we definitely had to be more intentional about it. We had to track cycles, and turns out there's like an app for that. So if anybody's looking for a good app, let me know. But yeah, we had to be really intentional about it. And, it took time, but we had a Landon. And then surprisingly, didn't take much time for Lydia. As soon as we decided it, she came. So we were blessed in that way.
So my journey into motherhood was less intentional. Aubrey was born when I was 18, and at the time didn't even know who Jesus was. So it was quite a bit different. I do believe that God's timing, in hindsight, was perfect because it gave us an opportunity, I think, to decide to go a different path than the path that we were headed on. And we eventually got married when she was 2, but it's been a interesting journey growing up with your children.
I feel like, yeah, however how you feel, your kids grow you up in ways that you do not expect it to be. For me, I always did want to be a mom, and I have this vivid image of me as a little girl in our family room in our house, and we have this like orange velvet recliner, and I put my little chair next to it, and I put on my mom's like worship music, and I would have this like baby doll on my hip in a little diaper bag, and I would pretend that the baby was like crawling away, and the angels would like hit the baby, and I'd be worshiping. And it's very interesting that that is what I have now done for the past 11 years.
Somebody said was talking about God's timing, and I think it's like a really important idea that like we can plan and prepare for anything in this life. Like you can build your plans, but there tends to be this. There's always a wrench. It feels like when you plan your life out to the T. Like it'll like always something unexpected happens. There's always something that's like, wait a second, that wasn't in that wasn't in the cards, and it's like those whether it's preparing for motherhood, like you can have your timeline. You're like, okay, let me finish this, and then we can do this, and then we're financially stable. You're never financially stable for the kids, just to let you know. It's never financially stable. They always put out new numbers that like now to raise a kid from like birth to 18 is it's basically I think it's up to like $200,000, something like that. It's just like, what are we buying? Anyway, but the same goes for any stage of life that you're in. Like Scripture says, like God, like I know the plans that I have for you. It's like He knows, and so at the end of the day, all we can do is trust that. Okay, no matter what comes, hell or high water, God at least knows, and He has me in the palm of His hand. I think that's so important. Now, when you think about your motherhood journey and kind of what you've been through, because now most of the kids are at least like old enough to be able to have conversations with us and reason with us on some level. What has been like a blessing, a perk about motherhood that's surprised you?
I was thinking about this, and one of the things that became like a deeper revelation was God's love for us. Because for me, anyways, with my kids, I love them unconditionally, and I would do anything for them. And even when they frustrate me or they do something wrong, that love never goes away. It doesn't change. If anything, it just gets stronger. And so, in my limited human capacity to love 2 kids this way, it just makes me think how much God loves us, right? In His perfect love. And so that was really a blessing to be able to experience just a taste of that, and try to get a little deeper revelation of God's love for us.
So I was thinking more along the lines of, you get to feel every single one of the milestones and the victories that your children go through. It's a blessing to watch each individual child grow into their own personality. I was blessed with 3 girls, and they're 3 very different girls. So it's just been amazing to be able to see them develop and grow into their personalities. I think sometimes the challenge with mirroring emotions with your children is that you feel everything, though. You feel all the good, but you feel all the pain too, you know. Um, I think another good perk I was just thinking about this morning is that having three daughters is fantastic because you can never leave the house looking odd because they're all gonna make sure you know it whether you like it or not. And I just thinking about like the moments over the years. I think I have probably some of the funniest girls in on the planet. So there's never been a dull moment, and they've really enriched all of the experiences that we've had as adults. And so I don't know, that's probably the biggest blessing for
I
me.
think it's really cool to see their personalities emerge because I remember my mom thinking, she said that when she had my brother, my oldest brother, she thought he would just kind of come like a blank slate and she could kind of like plug in what she thought, he should be. And very much not. Like babies come out and they are who they are. And it's interesting to be able to help shape that future.
It's humbling, really. It's almost like you expect them to be many versions of yourself, and then when you realize that they aren't, it's a very humbling experience.
Mixed with me? Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's really setting up. Genetics are crazy. They're really setting kids up for disaster because when you combine them together, oh my gosh, it's nuts. Anyway, it's like, yeah, cool. It's good. I'm going to throw a curveball for you, but because basically on that note, when you think about the parts of motherhood that surprise you, you might have to think about it, but hopefully one you guys will answer right away. Where have you seen God show up in a way that you didn't expect throughout the journey of motherhood?
Um, to pinpoint a specific moment is difficult for me. We didn't get to know God until Aubrey was in seventh grade, I think we determined this morning. So none of us were raised in a church. We weren't raised with any kind of faith. But I would say that in hindsight, there are so many places that it would be tough to pinpoint one. There's been so many times that I can look back and just be like, he's always been there to guide every step of the process, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. We can definitely see it throughout. But I feel like he shows up in those really difficult moments. And one that comes to mind is, Landon being my first. I went in, again, with a plan that it was going to be this, beautiful experience I had seen on the movies. And I ended up having to have a C-section. And in that moment, I was shaking because it wasn't a part of the plan. It was actually what I didn't want to happen. And God showed up in that moment because just in so many ways, and being able to make sure that we were both healthy at the end of it, that everything ended up being okay. Lee was there to take over when I was still trying to recover. It's just he supported us in that really critical time, and he's done it again and again, but that one stands out.
I like the verse that I like because sometimes in life you can be going through life and you just kind of let moments by you. It's really good to have a way to memorialize these moments. So it's like what's the blessing or the perk of a moment because it surprised you. These are moments in time that it's like, oh, I know that the hand of God was on our family in this moment, and
So we did everything a little bit backward, as you can probably tell. We had our children and then very quickly realized that in order to financially support those children, we had to make some changes in our lives. So Derek went to college first, and we had 2 children at the time, and so I had to work 2 jobs, and he was working as well. And then when he finished, I went back to college and had to work and go to school. And throughout the entire thing, I think that's probably the most difficult point in our parenting life, because you have to learn to balance everything. It's so hard to work a full-time job, go to a class, have time for homework, and then still try to figure out how you're going to have enough time to go to softball games and, make parent-teacher conferences and get the quality time in. I think that was probably the most difficult point in motherhood for me. I went through a lot of guilt. There was a lot of guilt for feeling like I couldn't spend as much time with them. I had a lot of people in my life that were able to be stay-at-home moms just because their circumstances were different than mine. So I think the amount of the time that I spent with my kids versus the time they were able to spend with theirs really, I struggled with that for quite a bit. And then on the flip side, what it taught me was how to make every moment count, to really think about being intentional in how I spent my time, when I was going to do my homework and have a schedule. It also, I think, to some degree, having children before I went to college drove me, because in my goal to make every moment count, I knew that I had to complete it, because if I didn't, it would be worth nothing all the time away. So I think even though it was a real struggle, I think it's also probably the way that I would have gotten it done. I think God knew that was the way I had to get this done. So we did things a little bit backwards, and that made it hard. But
For me, I think the most difficult moments are those that feel out of your control, specifically when you see that your child is struggling and there's nothing that you can really do about it. And so for us, that was Landon really early on. He wasn't talking as they were expecting him to talk. And so when we took him to the doctors, they were like, well, maybe you're just giving him stuff before he even has to ask for it. So why don't you just stop giving him stuff before he asks for it and really make him ask for it? So I remember being like, okay. And so I he was in his crib, and he wanted to get up. And I said, okay, I'm not going to pick you up until you say up. And he was just kind of like, what is going on? And I was like, say up. And I said it like 1,000 times. And finally, he just kind of looked at me like, lady, if I could say it, I would say it, but I can't. And I just, kind of that mother instinct, I guess, definitely followed that. I just picked him up and held him and cried. And it did turn out that he had what they call apraxia of speech, which is a neurological disorder that impacts a lot of things, but basically impacts your ability to hear language and then motor plan using your mouth, your tongue, everything that you need to speak to produce words. And that was really hard, because when we asked kind of like, what is going to be his process, what is going to be the progress, they couldn't really tell us if he would speak or how clearly he would ever be able to speak. And I just remember looking back, like when we were in the car or places, because he's a real curious kiddo, and just looking at his eyes and being able to see that he wanted to say so much and he couldn't. So that was really challenging. And then I think kind of what has gotten us through that is prayer. And I know a lot of times people say, well, all you can do is pray. But really for us, it was like the thing to do is pray. And so I was reading my Bible one day, and I think I came across scripture that said something along the lines of like, in these circumstances, you need prayer and fasting. And the context was completely off. But, I feel like God meets you where you are. And what I took from that was like when it's really rough, you have to pray and fast. And so I started to do that when I think, again, I don't think I could fast the whole day. I want to say it's because there was something in my life that was like, I couldn't. Maybe I was nursing. I don't know. But I remember saying to God, like, okay, I'll fast breakfast. Breakfast is like my favorite meal of the day. I wake up hungry, so I'll fast breakfast, which sounds very simple now. But again, God meets you where you are. And so I would pray on my way to work. And every time I felt hungry, I would just pray. I would pray for words and phrases, words and phrases. And I would listen to that song that says, like, this is how we fight our battles. I might be surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. Play that over and over again. And I'll never forget, we were sitting in OT, the occupational therapy, and he just looks up at me and he says, Mama, what are you doing? Like, plain as day, in his own little way. It wasn't perfect like that. I think his M's sounded like B's, so he said, Baba, what are you doing? And I just started crying because, it was just such a blessing. It was, again, when you don't know and it's out of your control, it's really hard. But I have found that prayer and really relying on God in those times has gotten us through, and there's going to be more times. I know that. So, yeah, hopefully, that's something that we'll always lean into.
It's interesting how control, like we want to control, and yet we have so little that we can control, but we can control like our reactions and like our behavior towards others and things like that. And I think that motherhood really has a way of unveiling the depths and the layers of who we are. And control for me has been something that I've really had to
Ladies, thank you. I really appreciate all three of the women up here. Obviously, I'm married to one, so she's amazing in every way. You should get to know her. She's awesome. We've been married for 13 years now, right? Almost 14. Yeah, greatest in the world. And we've had the privilege of having LaMonica and Amy in our home every week for a while in our small group, and just incredible humans. The stories. This is why you got to join a group because you think like, oh, it's just a church program, and groups are a church program, but meeting people is really important. We've gotten really good at like being isolated and having surface level friendships, and keeping humans at an arm's length, and we're very busy, so who's got time for that? I can promise you, you will build friendships, relationships, you'll get to know people that you wouldn't have otherwise if you join a group. And so that's why we do them, so that you can grow in your faith. You can have people who will support you, who won't give up on you, who are going to pray with you. And so I think they talked about it earlier, but make sure that you go to the website and get into a group. If you don't find one that fits with your schedule, there's a link to lead one. We can talk about how you can do that. But you got to get yourself around people. So it's been amazing having these families in our group over the last year. So honored to call you guys friends. Thanks for being a part. Thanks for helping us on Mother's Day today. It was excellent. Can we have a hand for these three who helped us? Couple things before we close out. One, there's in the lobby, which if you blink you'll miss it, but in the lobby there's a photo booth, there's lights, so if you need pictures, go do that. It looks great. And then next week we're starting a new series. Now, I'm so excited about this because if you think about life, and like if you have a brother and your brother started to walk around and say like I'm the Messiah, like I'm the Son of God, that would be a wild thing for your brother to say. And then imagine it's actually true, and you actually believe it, and so you write a letter to the church kind of about how to live this Christian life. So that's James. James is the half-brother of Jesus, and at some point in his journey, he accepted the fact that his own brother was the Son of God, and he wrote this letter to the church at a really stressful time for the church. The way he opens it, he's like, this is to the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered across the earth. So they had no home. They're all over the place. The word he uses is diaspora, which is the name of the series that we're going to spend some time in this letter to the church. James cuts to the chase. If he lived in the Western world, he would be from New York. He just would be. He's got an attitude. He says it like it is. He doesn't cut corners. He'll make you feel really weird about yourself because he's going to say things that are offensive. And you're gonna read it twice. You're going to be like, did he actually say that? And it's like, yeah, he did, because he's a New Yorker at heart, which is awesome. And so we're going to spend some time going through James together. It's only 5 chapters, so you can read it real quick, even in your own time. And it's going to be so much fun. So that's next week. Invite all your friends. They won't regret it. And then, again, make sure that you find a group that you go. We've got a group for the ladies. We've got a group for men. We've got a marriage group. Sign up for it. If it fills up, I'll just tell you. And then if you want to lead one, you can. It's going to be great. So thank you for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day, ladies. It's going to be great. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks for coming to the room.